Candy cane. Okay, well, we'll try this again. I'm glad y'all went ahead and took care of that little task of coming up with a subject. Oh, Sarah Beth, I was just thinking, what do they have in Haiti? Do you know?
Well, there's actually an orphanage that our friends live right beside. Like it's right beside their house.
Ah,
And I don't remember everything about it. I'll have to ask my mom to remind me because it was a while ago.
uh-huh.
But they told us the story that like the owner wasn't feeding the kids or taking care of them at all.
Oh.
And so they were trying to get them, I don't know, they did something really bad to some of the kids. I don't really remember. And so they're trying to get her, the lady who owns the place, they're trying to get her arrested because I don't know. But so they had her for a while and then she got back to owning it somehow. I don't really remember. I have to ask my mom about
Well,
it.
I think that was probably the thinking behind getting rid of a lot of orphanages here in this country in the first place, because they tended to be warehouses where children weren't treated very well.
Yeah.
You know, in China, the orphanages, they're just vast numbers of orphanages and huge. Well, that'll make it interesting.
Yeah, I was gonna try to put that in there somewhere too, but I need to remember. I need to look back at the story.
Okay, yeah, that would be a good thing to do. Okay, so let's talk about our first essay that we're going to do, and the descriptive essay. So y'all turn to page 43. Now this will be a very different essay than anything you've probably ever written before. It's definitely different from anything you've ever written for me. And it's kind of fun, but it's also hard. Has everybody come up with a place that they're going to describe? Okay, what's your place?
We have a cabin in Cashers. It's in like a cabin. And
Ooh.
it's very. We were trying to. I was trying to think of stuff on the way here, and it started making my mom cry because we haven't been there at all this summer.
Oh.
And she's like, I want to go. So
that sounds like a really great place. Yes. Okay, Grace Ann?
Sunset Beach is where we go every year for vacation.
Oh, how fun. Where is that? I haven't heard of that one.
It's like 45 minutes north of Myrtle Beach.
Oh, okay.
It's kind of like just a smaller beach area that's not as crowded.
Oh, that's really nice. Yeah, I like that. Okay.
We're gonna do the Yakima Indian Reservation in Washington, because I went there for a mission trip. And it's
Washington State?
Washington State. So.
Wow, that's really neat. Did you go this past summer?
I did.
Oh, wow. So good. That's still fresh in your memory then. Okay, Levi?
We had a cabin we went to a few years ago, so we can do that.
Okay. You still have fresh enough memories that you should be able to.
Yeah, it's really weird. I remember like everything about it. So.
Oh, wow, that's great. Where is it?
It's in Tennessee. So.
Fun. You must have really liked it a lot.
Yeah, it was really cool. So.
And Tristan.
I go to Hilton Island because that's like a place where like it's been like a family tradition. Like everybody goes there like every year. So.
Do you stay in a particular place each time, or?
We did for a while. And we switched places 2 years ago. So I don't know if I'm gonna write about the first place we went to or the second place. I don't know.
Okay, well, it's up to you to pick a specific place. Okay, so we've been working on description for the last 2 years, level 1 and level 2, learning to write descriptively. So what's your memory of what I kept emphasizing about descriptive words as opposed to just high quality words? What is a descriptive word?
Silent and long and
Gives the senses, and emotion can be very descriptive words too. So what we want to try to do in this essay is to help our audience experience the place that you're talking about. And this is what makes it so challenging, because you're not just telling about it, you want to try to help them experience it, which is a different kind of thing, okay? And what's so unique about this essay, I found this idea online, I don't know, 5, 10 years ago. Must have been 6 or 8 years ago, is that it's going to be a 5-paragraph essay, but it's not going to be a normal 5-paragraph essay. It's going to be a paragraph for each of your senses. Okay? So, one paragraph will describe sights, another paragraph will describe sounds, taste, smells, and touch/emotions. Okay? Because we want to get the emotions in there too. Now these are the same description things that I had in the other handbook, so there's nothing really new here. But if we look at page 43, you will see in the bold black print where the author has tried to use words that communicate a sense. So, the great writers are usually very good at describing things. I really like this passage here about the earthquake in Yosemite Valley. So let's go about halfway down the page. Well, it's the 3rd paragraph from the bottom. And just notice the different kinds of description words that he uses. At 2:30 of a moonlit morning in March, I was awakened by a tremendous earthquake, and though I had never before enjoyed a storm of this sort, the strange, thrilling motion could not be mistaken. The shocks were so violent and varied and succeeded one another so closely that I had to balance myself. I should have put that in bold too. I had to balance myself carefully in walking, as if on the deck of a ship among waves. For a minute or two, the shocks became more and more violent, as if nature were wrecking her Yosemite temple and getting ready to build a still better one. It was a calm, moonlit night, and no sound was heard for the first minute or so, save low, muffled, underground, bubbling rumblings, and the whispering and rustling of the agitated trees, as if nature were holding her breath. Then suddenly, out of the strange silence and strange motion, there came a tremendous roar. The Eagle Rock on the south wall, about half mile up the valley, gave way, and I saw it falling in thousands of great boulders I had so long been studying, pouring to the valley floor in a free curve, luminous from friction. Can you see that in your head? This curve of light from the boulders falling, making a terribly sublime spectacle, an arc of glowing, passionate fire, 1,500 feet span, as true in form and as serene in beauty as a rainbow in the midst of the stupendous, roaring rock storm. There were lots of other words there I could have bolded that I didn't. So he's trying to help us see this amazing sight that he saw. Okay? So on the next page, I say that you can choose a person, you can write about a person, a place, a memory, an experience, or an object, but you are really going to focus on a place in this particular essay. So the difference between just sitting down and just writing a loose connection of sight, sounds, taste, touch, and feelings is that, like all essays, there needs to be a controlling idea. Okay? Think about your place and think about why you find it something that you want to write about. Sometimes it's because it's a really special place or because of something that happened there, or it's a place that you've been a lot and so you associate with these wonderful memories. So think about why that is. Why is it that you wanted to write about your particular place? Can anybody tell us exactly why you wanted to write about it?
And just because there's like a lot of stuff we actually talk about, and there's so many movies there, and like it can make it very descriptive because you've been there so many times. Like for me, like I've been there so many times that there's pictures in our mind, and I can like make the pictures really descriptive in my head and stuff.
Okay. And is it a special place to you? Okay. You've been there so much that it probably almost feels like a home away from home in a way. When we go to Hilton Head, we have certain restaurants we like to
Oh,
eat
yeah.
at each time. Do y'all ever go to that Giuseppe's Pizza? Oh man,
We have
it's
that's
so
our
many
tradition.
toppings.
Every Friday night, we go for like a week, and the Friday night's like designated Giuseppe's night.
Uh-huh.
Giuseppe's pizza.
Do you go to Hudson's?
I don't think so.
We go to Hudson's, and I like to get their she crab soup. So that's something I look forward to doing whenever we're there. And they have good shrimp too, good fried shrimp. Although it's really hard to find better fried shrimp at a beach than we can get right here at Reinhardt's in Augusta. Yeah. Okay. So special memories. That's kind of like coming home. All right. Levi, why do you want to write about that place?
I just really like the mountains and that's just really cool to read. So
Okay. What was it about your missions place that you went? What was it?
Well, I mean, I guess just the scenery also, for one, is just like it's crazy, like all the mountains
Uh-huh.
and then the people, I guess, like the missions people that I was with, and the Yakima, the Indian people. So,
Okay. All right. Grace-Ann?
Mine would kind of be the same as her because we've gone there since for as long as I can remember. So I know where everything is, and we go there every year.
Do you stay in the same
Sometimes
place every time?
We used to go to the same place every year, but then the person that let us stay there sold it. So we've been going to different places.
Exact
every
same
year.
story,
Okay. All right. So you're going to write the old place you used to stay, or?
Yeah, I could do that.
Okay. All right.
We've just been there so much. Like we try to go like 3 or 4 times in the summer. We go for weekends.
Wow. How
And so we've
fun.
just been there so much, and like the cabin's really rustic, and there's a lot of stuff to describe about it. Like it's down in a valley, so you can like see all the mountains, and it's just really pretty.
Wow. And where'd you say this place was?
It's in Cashers. It's near Highlands.
Oh, okay.
It's like right outside of Highlands.
Uh-huh. Isn't Highlands where that really good restaurant is? It's like a big family style restaurant. You know what I'm talking about?
We don't usually ever.
Is that where the Dillard House is?
Oh yes, I
Okay.
think so. I love the Dillard House.
Oh, yeah.
We go there for breakfast sometimes, and there's literally no room. They put so much food on your table. There's no room for your plate. You have your plate, and then there's food all around you, and you don't have room to put anything else on the table.
That would be for the taste thing. That you could do some stuff from the Dillard House. That would be fun. So now, when y'all go to these places, you can write about the different restaurants you go to. You can write about the food that, if you have any traditional food that you normally fix when you are in places like this. Now, what kind of food did y'all have, Drew?
well, you normally had like normal food, but we also had elk and like I can't remember. There's another one. It's like some kind of like Washington,
Large scale
like,
animal.
yeah, but most of it was normal. So.
Okay.
That'd be interesting.
Uh-huh. Would be. Okay. Do y'all have special restaurants you like to go to, Grayson?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. So these are things that you want to help your reader enter into it. Like you're writing a travel brochure almost. You know, maybe you were trying to make somebody want to go to your place.
Like an advertising.
Yes, like an advertisement. Okay. Okay. So what you want to do when you're describing is show as much as you can. help your readers see it in their mind instead of just telling them there's really great food there. Try to make them go,
Yeah.
you know? And I have some examples here that some of them are more successful, parts of it are more successful than others, and we'll look at those in a minute. Now, you probably remember, and I can't remember if I had this, Tristan. How long has it been since I had you in class? I can't remember.
2 or 2.5 years.
At least, I would think. Okay. Well, there's new stuff in the books that you probably haven't seen. So, starting on page 124 and 125, we have our sight words that y'all are, I'm sure, remember from previous years. So there's a whole page of just color words, which I just love. There on page 126, we've got different kinds of sound words. Now these lists, of course, are certainly not exhaustive. There are other things you can come up with besides just these. They're touch words that have to do with different kinds of touch. And then taste and smell, as I've talked to you about it often before, are very closely related. And so your taste is affected by smell, and your smell is affected by taste. So page 128 has some taste words and also has some scent words. Some of them are very similar. And then we have different groups of emotion words too. So these are some descriptive things you can use, but they're not exhaustive. I'd like for you to go above and beyond. And I really love this quote down at the bottom of page 45. It's so applicable to this essay. You can take for granted that people know more or less what a street, a shop, a beach, a sky, an oak tree look like. Tell them what makes this one different. What's different about your beach, your place? Now I know at Pawleys Island, which is a little bit on the other side of Myrtle Beach, a lot of Pawleys Island is situated on the salt marsh. You know, so looking out, some people can actually sit on their porch and they're looking out on
That's how it was last year.
Oh, really?
Yeah, it's on an island, so they have some houses that you like look over the marsh.
Uh-huh.
So that's where we've been the last 2 years.
Okay, well, you might want to do that then, because the salt marsh just gives you so much to describe, and then of course there's the smells too. You know, so help them see. People hear the word beach and they kind of think of this generic white beach with blue water. That's really not what South Carolina beaches look like, or, you know, it really isn't. Help them to see those beaches, you know, how are they different than most people would think beach? Spend some time thinking about that. Like, do you know why the water is so murky, greenish brown off the Georgia and the South Carolina coast? And
Is it because the sand is thicker or different than like it is in Florida?
well, that's a very good, that's partly true. And, you know, have you ever seen the pictures of the Caribbean where the water is this crystal, beautiful blue color?
I always wanted to see that in real life. I just see the pictures.
You know why it's like that? Because there's nothing in the water. The water is pretty dead. Okay? The reason our water off the beaches is so murky looking is because it's just full of life. Remember when we had those paragraphs in the Georgia history class and it talked about the salt marsh and how productive the salt marsh was, and if they were like some of the most productive salt marshes in the world off the Georgia coast?
Yes, ma'am.
That's what makes that murky brown, greenish brown color. And it's that way in South Carolina too. It's just full of life. So what you see in the Caribbean is there's not that much life being poured into the oceans from the land. I find that fascinating. Because people would look at our water and go, ooh, it's brown. But it's because it's full of life. So make sure you give people pictures of, I mean, sometimes the water looks blue-ish, but it's not like the Caribbean, you know?
It's like a weird grayish blue color.
Yes, yes. And after a rainstorm, it's just frankly
Can't see anything.
brown. And then there's lots of crunched up shells on the beach. It's not that beautiful billowy white sand that you see in pictures, you know. But that's because there's so much life in the tide and it's being washed up on the beach, and it's pretty fascinating.
Every time we were down at the beach, it would like we would go like right after high tide, and the tide would be going out, and there'd be a ton of jellyfish just like left on the beach.
Oh, we were just
So-
talking about jellyfish in level 1 today when we did the old sea wasp paragraph. Yeah. Those are freaky looking.
Yeah.
So you want to try to help your reader see what is different about your place. Help them see it. You know, pretend that there's people reading it that have never actually been to a low country beach or a, what do they call it? Is that considered the Outer Banks, or is it still the low country? Do you know? Myrtle Beach. Myrtle Beach is in North Carolina, right?
Well, I think it's partly both. I'm not really sure.
Oh,
though.
okay. All right. Okay. I kind of forget where the states change there along the coast. Okay, so that's what we're going to be doing. Let's look at, quick tips for writing your descriptive essay. So, what or who do you want to describe? We've already decided that. And then what is your reason? Even though this is a description, you've got to come up with a thesis. And it may take a while for you to think about what it is. What exactly is it? Try to pin it down. It made you want to write about this place. And what are the particular qualities that you want to focus on? Well, we already know that. We're going to focus on the different senses. Okay? What I would do for each paragraph is just sit and make a list of every sight kind of thing that you can think of saying when you're writing the sight paragraph. Just list them. Don't start out trying to write sentences at first. Just, stir your brain around with a stick. Try to shake some memories loose. If you want to, you can even talk it over with family members, that know this place as well. That was a great idea. Have mercy on your poor mama. Were y'all just too busy to go this summer?
And we just didn't have a chance to. I think we're gonna go in the fall.
Let's
It's
go
even,
to the
it's even
mountains in
more
the
pretty
fall.
in the fall.
Yeah, we've been trying to escape to. We have a place that we go to outside of Helen in the fall. It's just a timeshare that we're part of, but it's really beautiful up there at that time of year. So, okay. So just brainstorm before you start each keyword outline for each of your paragraphs. Just list as many things as you can about each of those senses. Even small details. And we'll see some examples of that in a minute. Does each paragraph of your essay focus on one aspect of your description? Well, yes, yours will. Now, the hard part of this are your paragraphs ordered in the most logical flow. Think of this assignment as CrossFit. Writing CrossFit. Y'all know what CrossFit is? Okay. This is an exercise. We wouldn't normally write a paper or write something where we just focused on one sense, but it's very challenging to do that. And so you're trying to challenge yourself to come up with a description and somehow make it flow, and you can do your senses in any order that you want to. I think I listed them on different days, but it doesn't matter. Think about what the first sense you would be. I know going to the beach, often the first sense that strikes you, unless your nose is stopped up, is that scent, the ocean scent. or it might be a site. Often the site would be the first thing that we would think of when we're thinking of a place, but it doesn't have to be. But what you want to do is have a good flow. So let's look at some essays about this. The way this handbook is organized is in each of the sections, I'll have a professional essay, and then I will have several essays by students. I meant to change some of these or add some student ones this year, but I just ran out of time. So turn to page 137. Now, I've had this in other books, but here's an extreme example of description. It's one of my favorite descriptive paragraphs. It's from Huckleberry Finn. Directly it began to rain, and it rained like all fury, too, and I never see the wind blow so. It was one of these regular summer storms. It would get so dark that it looked all blue-black outside and lovely, and the rain would thrash along by so thick that the trees off a little ways looked dim and spiderwebby, and here would come a blast of wind that would bend the trees down and turn up the pale underside of the leaves, and then a perfect ripper of a gust would follow along and set the branches to tossing their arms as if they was just wild. And next, when it was just about the bluest and blackest, it was as bright as glory, and you'd have a little glimpse of treetops a-plunging about way off yonder in the storm, hundreds of yards further than you could see before. Dark as sin again in a second, and now you'd hear the thunder let go with an awful crash and then go rumbling, grumbling, tumbling down the sky toward the underside of the world, like rolling empty barrels downstairs, where it's long stairs, and they bounce a good deal, you know. Can you hear that? Can you hear that sound? Yeah. Mark Twain was a master of descriptive writing. Okay, so here's our professional essay. Do y'all know what a Santa Ana is? It's a particular weather event. So this is a professional writer, Joan Didion, and she's trying to help us experience a Santa Ana. Has anybody in here ever experienced a Santa Ana? Okay, we don't have them around here. They're out in California. There is something uneasy in the Los Angeles, and particularly pay attention to what it is that helps you be able to experience this as we read. There is something uneasy in the Los Angeles air this afternoon, some unnatural stillness, some tension. What it means is that tonight, a Santa Ana will begin to blow. A hot wind from the northeast, winding down through the Cajon and San Jorge passes, blowing up sandstorms out along Route 66, drying the hills and the nerves to flashpoint. For a few days now, we will see smoke back in the canyons and hear sirens in the night. I have neither heard nor read that a Santa Ana is due, but I know it, and almost everyone I have seen today knows it too. We know it because we feel it. The baby frets, the maid sulks. I rekindle a waning argument with a telephone company, then cut my losses and lie down, given over to whatever it is in the air. To live with a Santa Ana is to accept, consciously or unconsciously, a deeply mechanistic view of human behavior. Okay, that's her thesis right there. Her thesis, which is her opinion, don't ever forget that, is that if you live with a Santa Ana, you can't help but come to believe that people really have no choice over their destiny. That people are just responding to stimuli in the environment. That is what a mechanistic view of human behavior is. Have you ever heard that kind of thing before? You know, kind of like Pavlov's dogs, that the dog hears the bell ringing and he's been fed before, so whenever the bell rings, he salivates because he knows he's about to get fed. Okay, that's a mechanistic view of behavior. We're just pawns. We're just subject to whatever happens out there. We don't have any choice about how we respond. That's what she's saying here. And she's using the Santa Ana as her proof of that view of human behavior. Okay? It's fascinating, though. I don't happen to believe that myself. I recall being told when I first moved to Los Angeles and was living on an isolated beach that the Indians would throw themselves into the sea when the bad wind blew. I could see why. The Pacific turned ominously glossy during a Santa Ana period, and one woke in the night troubled not only by the peacocks screaming in the olive trees, but by the eerie absence of surf. The heat was surreal. The sky had a yellow cast, the kind of light sometimes called earthquake weather. My only neighbor would not come out of her house for days, and there were no lights at night, and her husband roamed the place with a machete. One day he would tell me that he had heard a trespasser, the next a rattlesnake. On nights like that, Raymond Chandler once wrote about the Santa Ana, every booze party ends in a fight. Meek little wives feel the edge of the carving knife and study their husbands' necks. Now that's pretty descriptive writing right there. Anything can happen. That was the kind of wind it was. I did not know then that there was any basis for the effect it had on all of us, but it turns out to be another one of those cases in which science bears out folk wisdom. The Santa Ana, which is named for one of the canyons it rushes through, is foehn wind, like the Föhn of Austria and Switzerland and the Hamsun of Israel. There are a number of persistent, malevolent winds, perhaps the best known of which are the Mistral of France and the Mediterranean Scirocco. But a foehn wind has distinct characteristics. It occurs on the leeward slope of a mountain range, and although the air begins as a cold mass, it is warmed as it comes down the mountain and appears finally as a hot, dry wind. Whenever and wherever foehn blows, doctors hear about headaches and nausea and allergies, about nervousness, about depression. In Los Angeles, some teachers do not attempt to conduct formal classes during a Santa Ana because the children become unmanageable. In Switzerland, the suicide rate goes up during the foehn, and in the courts of some Swiss cantons, the wind is considered a mitigating circumstance for crime. Surgeons are said to watch the wind because blood does not clot normally during the foehn. A few years ago, an Israeli physicist discovered that not only during such winds, but for the 10 or 12 hours which precede them, the air carries an unusually high ratio of positive to negative ions. No one seems to know exactly why that should be. Some talk about friction, and others suggest solar disturbances. In any case, the positive ions are out there, and what excess of positive ions does, in the simplest terms, is make people unhappy. One cannot get much more mechanistic than that. It's kind of funny, isn't it? Positive ions, positive. You would think positive would make happy, negative would make unhappy. I just noticed that. Easterners complain that there is no weather at all in Southern California, that the days in the season slip by relentlessly, numbingly bland. That is quite misleading. In fact, the climate is characterized by infrequent but violent extremes. 2 periods of torrential subtropical rains which continue for weeks and wash out the hills and send subdivisions sliding toward the sea. About 20 scattered days a year of the Santa Ana, which with its incendiary dryness invariably means fire. At the first prediction of a Santa Ana, the Forest Service flies men and equipment from Northern California into the southern forest, and the Los Angeles Fire Department cancels its ordinary non-firefighting routines. The Santa Ana caused Malibu to burn as it did in 1956, and Bel Air in 1961, and Santa Barbara in 1964. In the winter of 1966-67, 11 men were killed fighting a Santa Ana fire that spread through the San Gabriel Mountains. Just to watch the front page news out of Los Angeles during the Santa Ana is to get very close to what it is about the place. The longest single Santa Ana period in recent years was 1957, and it lasted not the usual 3 or 4 days, but 14 days, from November 21st until December 4th. On the first day, 25,000 acres of the San Gabriel Mountains were burning, with gusts reaching 100 miles an hour. In town, the wind reached force 12, or hurricane force, on the Beaufort scale. Oil derricks were toppled, and people ordered off the downtown streets to avoid injury from flying objects. On November 22nd, the fire in the San Gabriels was out of control. On November 27th, 6 people were killed in automobile accidents, and by the end of the week, the Los Angeles Times was keeping a box score of traffic deaths. On November 26th, A prominent Pasadena attorney, depressed about money, shot and killed his wife, their 2 sons, and himself. On November 27th, a Southgate divorcee, 22, was murdered and thrown from a moving car. On November 30th, the San Gabriel fire was still out of control, and the wind in town was blowing 80 miles an hour. On the first day of December, 4 people died violently, and on the 3rd, the wind began to break. It is hard for people who have not lived in Los Angeles to realize how radically the Santa Ana figures in the local imagination. The city burning is Los Angeles' deepest image of itself. Nathaniel West perceived that in the day of the locust, and at the time of the 1965 Watts riots, what struck the imagination most indelibly were the fires. For days, one could drive the Harbor Freeway and see the city on fire, just as we had always known it would be in the end. Los Angeles weather is the weather of catastrophe, of apocalypse, and just as the reliably long and bitter winters of New England determine the way life is lived there, so the violence and the unpredictability of the Santa Ana affect the entire quality of life in Los Angeles, accentuate its impermanence, its unreliability. The wind shows us how close to the edge we are. It's a good essay. I can agree that, yes, there are natural phenomena that do affect people's behavior. What I take issue with is her insistence that it makes human behavior totally predictable, and the follow-up to that kind of an idea is that humans can't really be held responsible because they're just responding to stimuli, you know. But it's very descriptive, and it does give me a sense of what it's like to be in one of those. I'd like to just be there, just to have a chance, see if I feel any of those things she's talking about. So, okay, so that's the professional essay. So now let's look at some essays that were written on this particular theme that you all are going to be doing. So here's the first one. It's one by Grant, my son. And see if you can identify what each of the paragraphs are about as we go through. Now, the student ones, some of the description is really good, and some of it is, you know, kind of weak and not necessarily that descriptive. But again, this is something that takes a lot of practice and really working on. To me, descriptive writing is very, very challenging. Just like family, every sight is like a treat to the eyes. As we drive down the road that runs along the Coe's property, I view the lush green landscape with all the slight curves and hills, which paints one of the most exhilarating pictures in Georgia. Whether it is the goats rambling across the landscape or the donkeys feeding near the fence, it is beautiful. While rolling, see, can you put that somewhere where it won't distract you? Yeah, turn it over and close it or something. While rolling down the driveway, the pond gleams in the sun as the wind urges the faded pink paddle boat across the green glass. Assorted cows roam across the land in another pasture down by the creek. At the end of the driveway, the viewer gazes upon multicolored chickens that peck the soil perkily, scouting for tasty tidbits. The stately golden retrievers dance in the dirt as visitors approach. Weighing about 600 pounds, the massive pink pig plods along in the mud, rooting about for any overlooked scraps. Suddenly, the plain black screen door bursts open, and Ian rushes out, wearing his famous red t-shirt, which reads, "Bold thinkers, bold faith." Mischievously grinning, he dashes forward. Inside the comfortable, hospitable house, the rest of the family greets us enthusiastically and warmly. Later that night, out the second-story window, a predictable and picturesque red barn dominates the background, with an ornamental horse and a timid donkey as decorative features. The images of the farm are unforgettable. Last of all, the sun drops behind the green line and colors the sky in bright, vibrant shades, and the hues slowly fade away. I think it would have been better if he'd actually, instead of bright, vibrant shades, what could he have done there? Yes. I've seen some really amazing skies here lately. You know, kind of like neon orange, glowing purple. You know, it would have been better if he had put the colors there instead of expecting us to come up with the sky colors, right? If you're going to be descriptive. And then talk about what the hues slowly fade to. Once it is dark, sounds fill the bedroom. The farm is chock full of animal and people sounds mixed with weather. At night, Bo the donkey bellows a lonesome dialect. Although it is not pleasing to most ears, it is most appealing to me. A whispering of wind enters through the skinny opening in the window. Occasionally a storm approaches, and the sound of thunder is like a sound machine which lulls people to sleep. There's another opportunity there. What does it sound like? Mark Twain described the sound as empty wooden barrels rolling down stairs. So he could have tried to describe the thunder sound. In the morning, the murmur of voices and clatter of cooking flows into the bedrooms above. A dog barks outside. Half asleep, I stumble out of doors, frightening the chickens who click on the pavement nervously. That's pretty descriptive right there. Honking, a goose waddles about his business in the yard. The sounds of the farm are more entertaining than any type of music. Unique is the best description of farm sounds. I don't really think so. I think you could come up with something better than unique. What could he have come up with? We need to look at our sound words and, you know, play with some words and try to come up with a sound word instead of just unique. Unique is a good, strong word, but it's not really descriptive, right? Many odors permeate the air at the Coe's farm. Outside, many distinct smells shock the senses. One of these scents is a thick, musty smell of dew in the morning, with a fog blanketing the area. Strolling past the chicken coop, let's make sure that's not my sister. No, it's not. He's not back into the habit of me class yet. Not in class. I thought it might be Reagan's mom. Let's see. Strolling past the chicken coop, the pungent perfume of poop completely pervades the space. The smell is intolerable. While approaching the horse corral, a rich, sweet smell of hay relieves the stench of the droppings. Not quite so natural, harsh exhaust fumes from the tractor collide with the blunt, earthy fragrance of the field. Without these romantic scents, would the farm be so memorable? Back inside the house at the end of the day, the aroma of all natural greens escapes the kitchen into the entire house. Yes, but what does it smell like? Is it sharp? Is it pungent? Is it, I mean, I have no idea what these greens smell like. You see what I'm saying? Some of these things, I get the picture. I do get it, but not that. The majority of the food at the Coe's house is superb. While at the farm, they prepare fantastic meals and snacks. At the New Year's Eve party, they serve delectable, juicy steaks smothered in seasoning, butchered from their own cows. Also, they grow vegetables. Wolf-renowned scrumptious, buttery's a good descriptive word there. Silver Queen corn in the summer. The guests leave no leftovers. Of course, there are several items of food the Coes eat that are not very tasty. For instance, the canned asparagus, which has a slimy texture. One fruit that Miss Coe often serves is grapefruit. It's sweet and tarty taste. That's good. Refreshes anyone after a hot day on the farm. Playing ping pong with Ian in the playroom, we shared the enjoyment of snacking on crispy, cheesy bagel bites, along with a killer combination of fizzy, sugary goodness known as Coke. Without a doubt, satisfaction is guaranteed. I always feel like they're pigs, stuffed full after a meal. At the Coe's farm, I'm bombarded with many tactile sensations. Outside and inside, many experiences contribute to these feelings. As we clamber upon the hay in the fall, the prickly substance jabs into clothing, making an itchy sensation. One special treat is running fingers through the horse's soft, silky mane. While walking through the pasture to pet the warm, pudgy cows, the grass swishes against our legs. After arriving home with chill bumps and numb fingertips, I hop into an inviting, steamy shower. I begin to thaw. Climbing into bed, I sink down into the plushy softness of the cozy sheets. At the Coe's farm, I feel just like family. Okay, so you're not going to tell what your thesis is until the very last sentence. That's another thing that's different about this essay. That's Grant's thesis right there. He's been sort of building this picture of, you know, being a part of the Coe family. So that's why he liked going there, and that's why he chose to write about it. So, all right, let's see another one. Now, I'm afraid if we read the beach one, y'all will get your minds poisoned. No, we shouldn't read the beach one, but we'll read this one of Deep in the Woods by Jacob. Okay, now Jacob only did 4 paragraphs, and the reason why is because apparently they didn't eat anything in this place where he was, and you'll see why. It was a little fort that they had in the woods. So, deep in the woods behind a rural Loganville home exists a place of never-ending adventure and excitement. Completely hidden from the outside world, this hideaway is a makeshift fort with trees as walls and various paraphernalia as furniture. Beneath the evening sky, the crisp air envelops me. Autumn has arrived. As I enter the forest, I brush against bulky bushes. So he's doing touch first. Continuing on, I feel the knobbed trees and splintered logs. Tires offer rubbery but comfortable seats, while giant wood spindles provide large splintered tables. The firm and compact ground has been trampled by many feet, which walk to and fro from the spot. If the rain has fallen recently, I will feel the damp, humid air blow and weigh on me as it stays trapped in the web of the tangled branches of trees. Stories of unimaginable excitement come to life in this hidden hideaway. In this adventurer's corner, the sounds are distinct. What can be more easily discerned than the dripping of fallen rain? Nothing is the resounding cry. That's hilarious to me. As I enter the hot woods, the rustling of fallen leaves underfoot and the crackling of dead branches reaches my ear. Birds chirp and chatter back and forth as the whispering and whistling wind blows. That's a good sound description. Muffled in the distance, noises of woodland creatures continually on the move can be heard. Wholly joined, these noises create a melodic rhythm. They compose a peaceful discord. Now there's a good sound description right there. Peaceful discord. After the dew falls in the early morning, I can smell the cool and freshness of the air. As the heat of the midday reaches its peak, the smell of sweat and hot air radiates from the woods that hold the fort. The smell is asphyxiating. Following the rainfall, the air becomes moist and acquires a musty smell. Tightly bundled branches burn, bringing the aroma of smoke and warmth in the dead of winter. The smell of victory drenches me as another day ends with triumph over the enemies who never tire. Now there's a little trick right there. He kind of switched there from actual physical smells to an emotion. Smell of victory. Entering the worn cluster of tangled trees, it is a hazy sight, like that of a field in early morning with fog rising from the ground. With rain always dripping from the trees, this rural patch of woods is easily transformed into a Brazilian rainforest. While the translucent area shimmers from the sunlight that shines through the gaps of the trees, it looks as if I am in a vast, hollowed-out tree. Curiously irregular, the space is muddy and pale from the rain and lack of open air. Rain falls tediously, and a slender stream appears in a minute crease of the earth. Imagination made this stream Bunyanesque. It's a great word. This place of wonderful exploration is what I miss most from my childhood. There's his thesis. He tries to build an experience for his reader of what it was like as a child to have this special place that was just his and his brother and friends. Okay, so don't read if you're not doing the beach, you can read the beach one. If you are doing the beach, don't read the beach one because you don't want to get your thinking poisoned. Okay?
Yeah, so we're trying to write and then you'll like have this going through your mind.
Yes.
And you end up writing the same thing.
Yeah, or it'll be, you might have a really good idea and then think, oh, that's too similar to
Yeah.
the other one. Okay? So, let's talk about just some specifics. Let's look at our, I need to send y'all the PDF file of the composition checklist too. In level 3, we started this in level 2, but in level 3, we take it to a higher level. So if you look on page 232, see at the top, just a reminder to print from the PDF file. You don't have to tear it out of your book or make a copy of it. It's just much easier just to print it out with the computer. I have several new things this year on the checklist. First, right below descriptive essay, you will see minus 20 points off total points if a copy of this checklist is not included with the homework. Okay, so you can get a total of 174 points. But I'll take 20 off of whatever your total is, which will drop your grade significantly if you don't include a checklist. I think all of y'all have always done it. It's just every once in a while somebody doesn't. And it tends to be for me that almost one person in every class and every batch of papers that I grade will forget to put their composition checklist in. And y'all know that grading is not my favorite thing. I do love reading your papers, but I don't really like grading your papers. And so I really don't like to get derailed in my grading by having to get up, come down to the computer, find the file, print a composition checklist. You know, it might seem like a small thing, but it really interferes with I try to get in this groove when I'm grading, you know. So make sure you do that. You will also notice that this year's checklists do say MLA heading. Remember I changed horses midstream last year and all of the checklists said, you know, title underlined with your name under it. And we're not doing it that way anymore. We're doing the MLA heading. And I have a picture of that in the handbook. If you look on page, where does it say? Oh, did I not put that on here? I know it's in your handbook. I don't think I put the page number there. Hold on a minute. Did I do that on all of them? Oh, okay. On the next assignment, I actually put which page it was, but I didn't do it on this one. 134 to 136 is the example of what your pages will look like. And I put my markings in gray. So notice that on the first page, everything is 1-inch margins all the way around. On the first page, you do not put your name or the page number at the top of the page, okay? Because you have your name, my name, you'll have level 3, and then you'll have the date in that particular format, okay? You don't underline the title. Don't put your name under the title. Most of y'all got that last year. All the way through, it's double spaced. No big gaps anywhere between anything. And if you look over on page 135, you will see an example of a works cited page. Of course, we won't be doing a works cited page for this one. This is just straight out of your head. And the next essay is going to be straight out of your head. So you won't have to worry about a works cited page. Sometimes people run into trouble with the double spacing. When they hit the enter bar, it makes an extra large space. And that is because if you go into the line spacing thing, you'll click on it and you'll see that it says auto on the inside thing, and it has to be set to 0. And I should probably try to send y'all a picture of exactly. Does everybody in here have Word, or does anybody use a Mac? Anybody in here use a Mac? You use a Mac?
I can use Word if I need to, though.
How do you usually do your papers? What
I have
program?
to do them. Well, for I usually do them just on the, like last year I did them on my Mac, the Pages is what it's called.
Do you have a, oh, okay. Well,
But
see, I just don't know how that's set up.
I can
but-
do it on Word if I need to though, because that's what I've been having to do for my other classes.
Oh, have you?
Mhm.
Okay. Well, I can't give you any advice about how to fix the spacing problem on Pages because I just don't know anything about it. But I will try to take a screenshot of where you go on Word to fix that auto thing. Because, you know, I guess it depends on what professor you get when you're in college, how big of a deal they make over something that's not exactly double spaced. Because that auto setting adds a little extra space every time you hit the enter button. It doesn't when it just goes down to the next line in a paragraph, but when you hit enter to go down to the next line, if it has auto instead of 0, it adds extra space. And it just depends on who you get for a professor for how big of a deal they make over that, you know? So, I'll try to send y'all something about that. Let's see. So we'll have the MLA heading this time. And let's look at our style stuff. I don't think there's anything new here on style yet, but there will be. Okay, so all of the dress ups you all have had, remember to do them in bold with bold underlines because it's just a lot easier for me to find them. I'm just going to remind you here that ly adverbs, one paragraph you need a dual ly. Okay, you don't have to do dual lys in every single paragraph. We're on 232, Levi. One paragraph needs to have an invisible who, which. One paragraph needs to have a dual strong verb. One paragraph needs to have a dual quality action. And you don't have to do them all in separate paragraphs. I don't care which paragraphs you do them in, okay? As long as I can find one of each of those somewhere in the paper. And don't forget that when you do a dual, or when you do an invisible who, which, or you do an invisible number 4, that counts as that dress up or sentence type for that paragraph. So if you do a dual ly, you don't have to also mark a single ly. Y'all remember that?
It's a dual.
Oh, okay. I'll show you that in just a minute. The descriptive words, you're going to mark with underlined italic words. Okay, you've got to have at least 5 in every paragraph. Sentence types, make sure you put your numbers and brackets in bold again so it'll be a little easier for me to find. And then you're going to mark your decorations with italics and use a different one in each paragraph. Now, all of these things are explained in the style section, so that was a good question, Tristan. We'll go back to that in just a minute. But you're going to be glad to hear about this. Look at page 233. This is what you're going to do your planning on. And I'm giving you copies of this to print out too. So you print a form. You don't have to belabor the whole keyword outlining thing anymore. All right? This now, unless you want to, if you want to keep making very detailed keyword outlines for your stuff, you can. But I think y'all are pretty solid on keyword outlining now. Am I right or am I right? If you want to keep doing that, I would be the last person in the world to stand in your way, and you're welcome to keep doing that. But remember when we did basic scratch outlines for SAT practice writing, where we made those really brief outlines? You can do that right on your essay planner, okay? You don't have to, you know, have everything in order. Use this for just planning it out. I mean, I do want outlines. I want you to think about what it is you're going to use in each paragraph, okay? But the extremely detailed keyword outlines where every single sentence you write is somewhere on a keyword outline, you don't have to do that. Okay? Right, so maybe this is really different. Your introduction is really sentence number 1. I should have really put it like that. Whatever your first sentence is, that's your introduction. So make sure that your reader knows right at the beginning of what it is that you're going to be talking about, okay? This is not a normal introduction. Instead of the funnel structure, you will discuss the sense that you first encounter when visiting your chosen place. And make sure you tell us what the place is. Don't forget and leave that out, okay? Don't want to put your thesis at the end of the introduction like we normally do. You're going to save it for the last sentence of your conclusion. So just list the things that you want to describe, okay? You don't have to come up with those descriptive words and put them in an outline. You can do that while you're writing. Y'all see what the difference is? Now, again, if it makes you happy and you think better making a very detailed keyword outline, then go to it, okay? But this is really more like the kind of outlining you would be doing probably for college writing, unless the professor asks you for a detailed outline, and then of course you would definitely want to do that. All right? Okay, so let's go back and refresh our memories about duels. If you look on page, wow, this class is flown by. The style section. Okay. It's on page 100. And duals are where you use two of either an outline or a strong verb or a quality adjective separated by a conjunction or separated by a comma. And what you want to do is to make sure that you don't use two words that mean exactly the same thing. Like, the little girl happily and joyfully skipped. That would be pointless, right? So you want to use two words that describe different things. The shepherd boy fearfully and desperately screamed to the villagers. All the animals taunted and tormented the panic-stricken hare. What magnificent feathers you have, crooned the clever but deceitful fox. The bent, wrinkled man slowly hobbled down the street. Okay, now, let's see. I see teeter-totters there. Now, I don't know that I actually had that on the checklist. Did I forget that? Let me see. Okay, you don't have to do a teeter-totter this time. You sort of ease back into it. Teeter-totters we'll worry about next time. And then the other thing, do you remember invisible who witches? Okay, so let's look at that. That's number 2. Invisible who witches. You can only do this with a form of the verb, with a state of being verb. So it doesn't work if you try to take out an action verb. William, who is a very funny boy, loves to balance eggs in the sockets of his eyes. William is a weirdo. No. Okay, William, you can take out the who which because it's the who is followed by a form of the verb to be, which is the state of being verb. William, who is, instead of saying who is a very funny boy, William, a very funny boy, loves to balance eggs, blah, blah, blah. The dog, which had been chasing the cat all morning, was exhausted and annoyed. The dog, chasing the cat all morning, was exhausted and annoyed. So, write a who which, write a sentence with a who which, and then see if you can take it out. You will be able to take it out if it's with a state of being verb. Okay? And in its place, you put invisible who which, so that I can see exactly where it is you're claiming that the who which was supposed to be. Okay? And then the other thing, oh yeah, I forgot to do it in bold, but on your number 4 openers, at least one invisible being opener. And that's all explained too at the bottom of 101. So, and then one of each of your decorations I guess that's it. Now later on in the year, I think starting maybe next time, we'll start varying the amount of paragraphs, and I'll talk to you about that next time. This is a 5-paragraph essay, but it's an unusual 5-paragraph essay. It's not your normal 5-paragraph essay. Okay. What questions do y'all have? Think of anything? Okay. The way we did it last year in level 3, which was really fun, is every week a couple of people read their papers. So you can expect to be called on several times throughout the year to read your papers. So write in such a way that you won't be dreading it. I know, level 3 students are always just so competent and reliable. And as far as working on your super essay, go ahead and find some kind of book or article and start reading it. And you can make some notes online. I mean, make some notes in your, this is for keeping your notes for your super essay. So when you find things that you think are really important. The other thing is when you read a book or article, I'm including this brainstorming chart, which you haven't used this before, but we used it in level 2 last year. Whenever you read a book or article for your super essay, do the pre-reading thing. You will print one of these for each book or article that you read, okay? Do the pre-reading activities, just like it explains. And as you read, mark things with your colored sticky notes when you think you found something that you think is important, that you might want to make notes about. And then after you get through reading the book or article, you're going to answer the questions about what kind of information you found in it. This should be pretty familiar for most of you from last year. With you, we might need to do some talking about it. Okay, it's pretty straightforward, I think. And then after you finish answering all the questions about what the author was trying to say, then you will fill out the section about what you think about what the author was trying to say. Because some of the things, especially if you're reading from a point of view that's different from the one that you have, you will have those kinds of things to say about the author, pointing out weaknesses in their argument or whether they supported their argument well and things like that, okay? So look online and see what you can find. I'm trying to remember. There's just all kinds of stuff about Planned Parenthood online, but I would suggest I'll try to look online and see if I can find some good sources for you. I don't know what there is about orphanages as far as books go, but we'll dig and do, you know, you start looking online and see what you can find. Do some Google searches, and I will too. And you guys are gonna, there's a book that I found a few years ago that it presented both sides of the gun debate, which was really interesting. And it was written kind of at a lower level. It might be a good one to start with something like that. Okay. I've been talking and talking and talking. I'm sorry I'm talking so much. It'll be your turn to talk when you come back. So have fun with this. I do think it's a fun paper, although it is kind of challenging. Do you have anything you want to ask? No? Okay. Well, I'm excited. Proud of y'all for being here.